Louisville's murder rate is unfortunately has recently gone up, and to help to fix that problem, Kentucky Governor Matt Bevin is calling on citizens to form roving prayer squads. Bevin urged volunteers to form teams of 3 to 10 people, which is a standard prayer squad size, that pick the same block to walk at the same time of day, which is important for obsessive people, at least 2 to 3 times a week. He urged participants to make a year-long commitment, because if you stop too soon, the prayer will not stop the rising murder rates. So he said this: go around the block, pause on each corner, pray for the people there, move to the next corner. And over the course of the year, here's what's going to happen. They're going to get to know the people on the block. Well, I should hope so. Bevin said it's a chance for people of faith to put their faith to work. He said it's pretty unsophisticated, which I will back up, pretty uncomplicated, pretty basic. But I truly believe we're going to see a difference in our city. I personally believe in the power of prayer. Bevin also downplayed the availability of guns as a problem behind Louisville's murder rate. He called the homicide spree a cultural, spiritual, and economic problem because those sorts of problems don't hurt the NRA if you solve them. And a ministerial group from some Louisville neighborhoods hardest hit by the violence called for updating what they see as lax gun laws that make it, quote, easier to buy a gun in West Louisville than a piece of fresh fruit. And so I understand that I've been pretty dismissive of this prayer thing, and certainly people getting more involved in their community is a perfectly fine thing. But this is of course a distraction from changes that could actually solve the murder rate. And telling people, I mean, coming the day after, I think it is, that who was the Republican who said, let's not worry about climate change, God will solve it in the end. There's, what's that?
Tim Walberg in Michigan.
There's this Christian fatalism that some conservatives fall to, and on issues that are so pressing and so deadly, we cannot allow people under the guise of something that seems nice and community building to allow murders to go on, to allow the climate to continue to heat up. I mean, these are incredibly consequential things, and people who are not serious or sophisticated or don't understand how complicated it is, they're the ones in charge.
Well, it's very Muslim of them. Islam in Arabic means to submit, and one of the central premises of Islam is submit to the will of God. Let him handle it. Don't try to solve anything. And so I'm oversimplifying that, and Muslims will get angry about it, but there is a lot of truth to it, and part of why I didn't like Islam. Like, wait, I'm a human being. I can act. I could do things, right? And I'm not going to sit around and go, maybe God will solve it, right? So obviously this is not the correct strategy, but I will give him credit for this. He understands that there is a side effect to it, and perhaps that he's couching it in terms that politically could work well in Kentucky. And what he's trying to do is get the community to talk to one another and to interact. On the other hand, that doesn't really help with stray bullets, and that's so. There's this case of a 7-year-old boy that was killed last month by a stray bullet. He's eating dinner at the table and inside the house, and bullet comes in and kills the kid. And when they asked the mom, she said she appreciated the prayers, and she's like, that sounds like a nice idea. I wish it would work. But she said, quote, I'm trying to get out of the neighborhood that I'm in because I've still got another child. Yeah. She's like, you want to walk around the neighborhood, but you might catch a bullet. And so for me, the situation is dire enough, I gotta go.
Right.
Of all the things that have put Matt Bevin in the news, this is by far the least objectionable. This is a Tea Party candidate. He won the Republican primary for governor by like less than 100 votes, like the 70,520 to 70,450. I mean, some staggeringly close against McConnell's guy. He's a Tea Party insurgent. He hates the same-sex marriage decision. He joined with a bunch of other governors, a couple of dozen governors, to ban Syrian refugees from coming to Kentucky because that's where they want to go. So I loathe Matt Bevin, and Matt Bevin is bad for America. But this is, there are worse things to do. It's sort of, there's a nice quality to this. I fear I'm dubious. Well, you know what? I was going to say something lousy, but I hope good people would show out, and it can only help.
I don't know. Sorry, Gina, you're going to get to it. It's not going to help. No, it's pointless. I'm not going. This is a concerted effort to say I'm not going to do anything, to purposely ignore the actual problem. Whatever problems that help form issues that happen in the street communities, that maybe something goes down like this, crime goes up. Why does crime go up? I don't care, pray about it. Why do people not have jobs? I don't care, pray about it. Why is there guns rampant in there? But I don't care, pray about it. It means you don't care. No, it's cool to pray, but guess what? You can pray from home. I grew up in a Christian household. I prayed for a grandmother that was in another state. It still worked. So you don't have to go to the corner to pray. It's just say, hey, get out there and pray so that I don't have to do anything or think about it anymore.
JR's point is better than mine.
The first thing I thought of when I heard this story was, is it a little bit ironic? Because isn't this generally the kind of things that the right makes fun of the left for doing? Like, oh, you're gonna march, you're gonna protest, you're gonna have a little vigil with a candle. But this is that, right? So, I mean, also with what JR says, that it might not move the needle, but it's nice, it's fine, it's whatever, but it's usually not supported by this particular group of people.
Yeah, and finally, so they're not talking about rural Kentucky here, they're talking about urban Kentucky. And so when the governor refers to a cultural, spiritual, and economic problem, he's also, that's loaded language to say, it's your fault for getting killed because you have a cultural problem. And I'm not just extrapolating that from one word. It's Fox News says it over and over again. They say, no, it's not a problem of guns, the things that are actually killing people or the bullets that are killing them. It's the problem of black culture. Fox News lays it out. Matt Bevin used the word culture in that context to trigger
people already get it.
Yes.
And he sued Planned Parenthood and he's a bad guy.
Oh, I hope he won.
He's a bad. It's bad. Look, I'm telling Matt, it's not complicated. I don't mean to be negative. He's just really bad for the country.
Yeah.
He's a harmful person.
I get that.
Well, then we saw.
JR, could you make a better version of what he just said?
You don't like ads? I hear you, brother. You know how you could avoid ads for the Young Turks? Become a Young Turks member and get all the content ad-free. TYTnetwork.com/join.